Okay, so welcome to another TROM-Cast. This time we are going to talk about abundance. And Dima, if you want to talk a little bit about it until I set up some stuff here. If you can hear me.
Hello. Yeah. I don't know if you can hear me, guys.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. So tonight's topic is abundance and why it's important and why it's not, and like in the future, I feel for the resource-based economy, then abundance is one of the keys we need to achieve in order to arrive on the such society where all the resource can be equally shared, and why it's important. And yeah, I don't really know how to start this talk.
Yeah.
The thinking, the idea why it's so important, and then I always why to have the abundance and equal right and share of the resources and opportunities is so important. And I always remember the story about the cows. So let's say when you look at the cows, they're always so calm. They're just eating their grass, and it seems they don't never have fights, or because there's a lot of food for them, so they're really calm and kind of live in peace. But then in a situation there's not enough, they start fighting. Or let's say if you want to feed them with something, like with some fruit, which is they usually don't have, they will start fight over it. And so, like, for me it's the same analogy with the humans. The more the more inequality in our society, the more there are problems, and it always will be like one will be on the top, and other will be forced to serve him or to kind of adjust their behavior only because somebody other have more resources, money, opportunities, and so on. So by providing abundance for everyone, we kind of guarantee equal rights to anyone, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my
Yeah. No, I would completely agree with that. And linking or discussing a future why we should have abundance is directly linked to the problems today that we face because of scarcity. And you can see that in more unequal societies and in more scarce societies, there's more corruption, more war, and greater levels of violence. And if you provide access abundance to people and give them the resources, then there will be less violence and less crime and less corruption, and so on. So based on those external factors as well.
Mm-hmm. And you guys can take it from here because I have to set up some stuff and then I will get.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first question that comes to mind is, how can you achieve abundance, and what does that really mean?
Yeah, for sure. Because you can today we already have kind of an abundance. So it's like it's creating like access abundance, so access to those goods. Is somebody's mic?
What happened?
Hello.
I think we're on.
No,
Figure okay, cassette. You can go.
All right. No, my point was just that it seems like today we have already like an abundance in a way of goods. We have more than enough food to go around. It's just about creating like an access to those goods and needs. So it's about changing the rules of the game. And within today's trade-based game, we have artificial scarcity. So we have actually more than enough to go around already, and we have an abundance of resources. It's just about designing a game or a world in which people have access to those resources that they need, and so on.
I think sometimes it's hard for people to get their head, around that idea, because they're so used to, living in a world that's so, well, apparently scarce with, with almost any resource, because we're basically fighting over the resources that we need to survive by having to trade our skills for money, and then basically struggling to survive just to get the stuff we need. So last time I tried to explain this to somebody, they basically said, oh, but that's impossible. We'll never have an abundance of, everything that we'll need. It's just impossible. So at that point, I put on the table, okay, well, take a look at food. We have more than enough food for everybody. I definitely have an abundance of the capability to have an abundance of food for everybody on the planet. But there's millions of people dying of starvation still every year, and it's 50% or more of our food is being thrown away. The issue isn't that we can't have abundance. It's that there's something wrong with the system. You know?
And I think like people wrongly assume that abundance means almost like a waste of resources, and it's like everybody has a home, everybody has a car, everybody has a fridge, a kitchen, a whatever big land and so forth. And I think this is the biggest misunderstanding if you talk to people about abundance, because abundance should not mean that. It should not mean, because you don't have a Google server in your basement. If that would be crazy, You just access Google servers or whatever. You don't have to have your production line to make clothes at home, or to make we make food at home, like we talked when you talked about technology. But even that will change in the future more and more. So I think that's a very important point. We don't need a car for everyone. You need a transportation system that will be able to allow us to travel without just allow us to travel, not have a car and park it, have a parking lot. The example that I always give is with shopping carts. I always give this example because it's so ridiculous. Imagine if all of us had a shopping cart at home and we had to take care of it, pay insurance, and have a parking lot. That would be completely stupid and ridiculous. But why do we have cars when they stay 97% of the time stay parked and not used? So that is a very important point to point out. About abundance doesn't mean a lot more stuff. It in many cases it means less stuff.
Yeah. That's actually interesting you say that, because what they're predicting for like Teslas and stuff right now is that these self-driving cars or whatever, they're not going to park in the cities anymore because it's more worth it to drive around self-piloting and take the wear and tear than pay $5-10 to keep your vehicle there.
Nice.
So it's just like it's the profit motive going directly kind of against abundance in that sense, where you can kind of think like food that doesn't even reach us. Like a majority of the waste isn't happening at consumer level. It's happening before it even is an option for us to purchase it out of a store, because it's people won't buy the blemished apples, or they'll sell at a less rate. So it's like, why even waste shipping them out? Let's just leave them on the ground or deal with them another way. And that's just completely lost, and something that's like, if you're not aware of that or not looking out for that, you'd never know what's happening. And that's just,
I think we have to clarify what we mean by abundance, like when we say the abundance. So from our perspective, the way I see the abundance, not that we have a lot of stuff here, like you said, but by abundance we mean equal access to basically all the needs human might have. That's the abundance of the access.
Yes,
exactly.
Abundance of access, I think, is what you're looking for there. It's the same thing applies with the transport, where it's like, you don't need that thing sitting out there on any time. It's like you just want a ride somewhere when you want it. So it's like, now we got Uber, and you might wait like 2-3 minutes, but the same thing with self-piloting cars. It's just like you're pinging it, and a nearby vehicle, not your designated vehicle that could be on the other side of the city, but just a nearby vehicle. It's more efficient to just grab you and escort you wherever.
Completely.
Accessing instead of owning, for example. Instead of own, you go towards access. That's the idea.
This is hard. Yeah. This is also hard for people to imagine, because what they imagine is, putting today's humans into a world like that.
Yeah.
And if you put today's humans who are, just craving attention, craving stuff, to off to each other, basically, then you will have a lot of problem in such a world. I really like what Actually, I don't remember if it was the money game or
I think it was
one of the other
the
games.
property of waste.
Yeah, where you talked about the native, the natives that went to this documentary, natives that went to Manchester, and you couldn't just throw these, native people into a city and expect them to function, the way normal people, the way modern day people function in cities. You have to teach them how the system works. You have to teach them, they can't just kill pigeons on the street. They can't just, shit wherever they want. They need to learn how this system functions. And that's the same for what we're talking about. We can't put today's people into the world that we're talking about. We need to teach them how it functions first. So the main point is their values need to shift. And when you give, today's people, the idea that, oh, we can live in a world of abundance, all of a sudden they think, oh, I'm gonna have the best iPhones, I'm gonna have all these cool clothes, I'm gonna have all this awesome stuff, jewelry, No, that's not what we mean by abundance. So that's the challenge, as I see it.
Exactly, because if you take those people from those tribes to bring back that into discussion, imagine putting them into New York. Just like put 100 people from a very so-called primitive tribe. I mean, tribes, people who live like in forests, they hunt and so forth. You put them in New York, of course you don't expect them to know how to, pick up a cab or go to the supermarket, go to have a job and do all of that. In the same way, how can we expect that people from this society who are used to trade, to work, give their skills and their time to take something in return, how can these people function in a society that we talk about, like in an abundant kind of society? That's why we have to explain what we mean by that. It's not like you lack something. You don't lack something. You shouldn't lack something. But it's also about values. Values have to change, because some people may say, yeah, but I lack my jewelry. I want to have more jewelry. I want to have more cars. So it's a shift of not only infrastructure, but it's a shift of education. That's important.
I think that's the constant conclusion we have here on all our discussions. It's always about values.
Yeah, I mean, because that's basically, what this movement has to be about.
Yeah.
There's no way we'll get there without a shift in values.
Because take a disease or something that we don't have a cure for. Like, again, take Alzheimer, for example. Alzheimer is not a problem in the way that we think. It's a physical problem that we have to solve. But this problem of society and how to organize ourselves, we have the technology, we have the means. Of course, it's a problem in here, inside this, in the mind of people. If everyone agreed, like a miracle tomorrow, that yeah, we have to share everything, we will have more than enough for everyone. That's why it's a shift in the way that we think, that people think.
So then the question is how to make this shift collectively, Like right now we're a bunch of hippies who have this strange beliefs. But then how can you make this mainstream? I mean, when such discussions will be not on YouTube and just a bunch of people watching, but really on national TVs, for example, or on some mainstream channels. And instead of celebrities in music or in sport, we would have the thinkers, at least, or the scientists or the guys who do something. And looking at today's realms, I think the only way is to make them somehow, to make from them profit. If you can make profit from such talks, then it will be, popular. How to make the shift, I have no clue.
Then we'll be cool, because
yeah,
because we'll be rich.
Because you'll be rich, you'll be cool, and everybody will listen to you.
Yeah, that's the problem. And I always thought it was funny. Well, I don't know about you guys, when you went to school. I remember thinking about the fact that in school the smart kids were not cool. If you were smart, you were not cool. And I remember thinking about that. Like, there's no way in real life that's when I grow up that's gonna be how it is. In a sense, it kind of is. You know, it's not important to be smart. It's important to have money and look cool, and then people will listen to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like
Because
social.
that's our value.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because even when we talk about a world of abundance, even the richest people today will have a lot more and than in such a world. And I think most people will fail to understand this. Will be like, come on, that's impossible. But that's what we are talking about. You know, living better than even the richest of today. Because today, due to the fact that we hoard stuff in pockets like that, the scientific discoveries are slower or are very much manipulated by money. The environment gets destroyed. I mean, no rich human being can somehow pay its way through climate change, for example. It has to be a global initiative, or to the massive amount of waste, or the research, you know, like Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was one of the richest human beings in the world, and he died. He died of pancreatic cancer because there was no solution for no treatment for pancreatic cancer, and the main reason is because there are not a lot of funds invested into that, because there is no profit. Very few people have pancreatic cancer. So when he got sick, what could he do? Absolutely nothing, because you need years and years of, for example, scientific research and trials to come up with a solution for a disease. So you cannot pay your way, even if you are rich. Yes, you can pay your way in certain ways, but if we could create a society like we talk about of true abundance, then even the richest will profit a lot more than they profit today.
Completely. Because even the so-called rich today, like you talk about, like Steve Jobs and so on, they are such victims of the stresses of society. So the whole system is cancerous, and most of these diseases are also caused because of this predatory environment where people are constantly fighting against each other. And it's a very stressful thing as well to become rich, because you have to submit to the rules of the game, which means that you're going to be fighting and competing against other people and constantly watching your back. And it's a very unhealthy position to be in. And you're bound to, resort to all kind of different addictive behaviors and ways of compensating, and all kind of different diseases will creep up on you as well. So the rich today are really not rich at all, because most of their behaviors are very egocentric and stressful and 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 predatory. Yeah.
They are
And
materialistic.
I would argue that, yeah, sorry. I would also argue that, I mean, I don't think that most, multi-millionaires or billionaires are happy, and satisfied. Because I mean, I wouldn't, I wouldn't think so. But for me, I mean, that's not where happiness comes from. It doesn't come from hoarding stuff, having money. So they're still just playing this game and trying to survive, and I don't know, trying to prove something to someone else. Because if you didn't have to, if you didn't have to do that, then wouldn't you just give all your money away and help as many people as possible? I mean,
It is
for me, I wouldn't ever trade my lifestyle for any amount of money. I wouldn't, if somebody gave me $1 billion, I wouldn't stop doing what I'm doing right now. And so I think real happiness is inside. It's in what you're doing.
yeah, because it's
in
that
the
saying
relationships
that
you have.
happiness is a state of mind. So that's
Yeah,
what it is.
exactly. And you don't need. Yeah, and the more money you have, like it doesn't help that state of mind at all. And people are constantly chasing it. That's all they're doing is just chasing this money because they think that it leads to happiness, but it doesn't. And they figure that out. Maybe some of them figure it out eventually, but maybe most people just go around chasing it their whole life. And especially millionaires because they want to continue to make this money. And yeah, and I'll tell you actually from my dad's experience. So I'm originally from Soviet Union, so my dad, grew up equal with everybody in Russia. And in the 90s, he made a business, and he became a millionaire. He got a lot of money. That's how he was able to get us to the States from Russia. But nothing changed. He said that nothing changed for him because he continued to do the same thing he was doing all the time. He would just go to work, and then all of a sudden he started making a lot of money. But he didn't change his lifestyle. He just continued to go to work, and all of a sudden he had more money, so he could buy more stuff. But that stuff didn't really change, his happiness or whatever. you know, and then eventually he lost it all, and now he's got basically nothing. And still nothing really changed because he didn't change his lifestyle, you know. So no matter how much money you have, if you're continuing this lifestyle where you're working, you know, a job that you're not satisfied with, or if you're not doing, you know, whatever you're really, you know, passionate about in life, then it's not going to make a difference how much money you're going to have.
For sure.
So looking, yeah, looking at all those benefits for the rich people, we just now propose why they don't give up all of their money and change their values.
And
I
give
think,
it to Trump.
yeah. I think it's not only about happiness or purpose in life, or you know, how to explain it. So you all said, and I kind of agree partly on that the richest people will have in abundant world will be much richer than they are now, but they're also losing something really valuable for them. It's control, power, and, you know, the statism, or the state of power, when they can control where other people can bow to them, when they can basically leading by their own ideas or ego, do a lot of stuff, do a lot of influential stuff, which influence, you know, millions and millions of people, that control state. So, and I think that's one of the main point where you, with what you are fighting, or we are fighting, you know, against those people, because they don't want to give up these positions of privilege.
Maybe because they don't know any other alternative. That's what they know. And I've watched several documentaries about rich people, and I read about a few of them. And to me, even from hearing from them, they are quite empty inside, because even though they control the other ones around them, they know that people are fake to them. I mean, they're not that stupid, most of them, I've realized. And they understand that, you know, it's even very difficult to have friends, to have a functional family. So maybe they don't know about any other alternatives. And because they are, we may ask ourselves, like, why aren't they donating money to maybe such organizations like TROM, and promoting such a lifestyle that we talk about, if they will live better than they live now? And to me, it's like, that's why they are rich, because they think differently. Like, that's why they are in that position. So it's quite a, not, doesn't make sense, the question, you know, in a sense, because they wouldn't be rich if they were thinking like that.
For sure.
Yeah, sure, but yeah, go on. Whatever wants.
No, I was just gonna add that in order for anybody to think the way like we think, maybe, and are more inclined into understanding trauma and looking into it and these types of values, you have to kind of be hurt by the system, not participate in the system, and look for other things as well. Otherwise, you will never arrive at such a way of thinking and be curious in the first place. You will immediately have like cognitive biases and dismiss ideas immediately, because they're attacking your means of survival, which is to operate in this trade world, and you get all the reinforcement. So I know that with most people who I know, who, you know, operate within this system, and it's difficult for them to step out of it mentally, because they're so deep in it. So this is near to impossible.
Yeah, most people don't even see another alternative.
The way I see it, it's for such people in such position of power, or of richness. For them, they see no reason to step back and now share this, you know, privilege, let's say, or position of power with everybody else. Like for us, because we're 99.9%, of course, it's a cool idea. Yeah, everyone will be equal. But for them, why they should? Their life is cool. They have everything what they need, what they want, and they can influence a lot. Why to share?
So that's encouraging. You know, they are 1%, so fuck them. Yeah. I mean, yeah. If they don't agree.
But they control all other 99.
Yeah, I know, but we need the under 99% or not that much, but we need, I don't think such messages that we do here are for rich people. I don't think, I agree. I don't think they will change their minds, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the way I see it is kind of moving away from the system, more people moving away from the system because they see a personal benefit to it. Um, so, for example, working less. You don't have to work so much. Don't embed yourself into a full-time job, and concentrate, figure out ways you can do that. That's basically what I'm trying to explain in the blog, how you can do that. And separate yourself as much as you can from the system. And once you get benefits from this, experiences and friendships, then you'll be filled, not with materialistic goods and things that you can buy with money, but with real things that make you actually happy. And maybe if more and more people can do this, then then fuck the 1%. We don't need them. No, Dima.
Nah, it's a cool way of living your own life. It's super fulfilling and super interesting, but it's not gonna change the society. It's the way like you can think about in every field actually. When there is a homeless person sitting and begging for money, and millions of people are passing him, and he may also think, wow, if just everyone who passing throw me 1 cent, it's nothing. Everyone can do it. I would be rich. I would be out of here and I would buy a house after 2 days. But it's never happened, and it's in every field. The same usage just described if everyone would go. So, but and start to travel and live their own life, not working, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah. I don't mean it like that really. I meant more like having it more of a thing, right? Something that people talk about. So something that people can see is possible, and just bringing these ideas out in different ways. Not just that. Not just like fuck a
Like
job.
the way I see there are a strict difference between what you can do for your own fulfillment or for your own benefits to improve your maybe the life of few people around you, like your friends or some audience. You can reach some small amount of people, and then there are other actions which can influence like things on a larger scale globally or something. And the way I research, I just really dig into this topic right now for the past few months, and I can see some good examples of personal actions which can change a lot of things. There are some, but it's very, very limited and few. So mainly our personal actions don't mean nothing except our own benefits, or kind of.
So what can we do then to change the structure of society to bring abundance?
I don't know.
I think it's a separation here between how a world of abundance could look like and how can we arrive there, how can we implement it. And of course this is always the question, how can we implement such kind of society. And I think we discussed like maybe every TROM-Cast about this, and of course there is not one answer. I have no idea. I don't think anyone has any idea how this will work out. I have no idea. You can give some shots and say maybe spread an idea, and this idea will spread to many minds, and people will push it through politics or through technology or so forth. But it's, of course, it's complicated. That's why maybe the solution in a way is going back to the presenting how this kind of world should look like, because maybe that kind of it gives you an idea of, or it's influencing other people to come with solutions of how to implement it. Like if you talk about world of abundance and explain how the world of abundance is, I mean, probably that's the only way to talk about such future. I mean, how can you approach this if you want to change the society? You should go to people and talk about this idea, right? Because they don't even know what you're talking about. What do you want to change? And I think that's what we should focus more on. Like, let's explain what we mean by abundance and how this world can look like. How to implement it, I have no exact clue.
Yeah, if you want to talk about something and inspire a lot of people, you have to talk bullshit. You have to be, super entertaining and grabbing attention a lot if you want to reach masses. Other than that, it's just always will be a niche of some, people with common interest.
Depends. I have no idea. Maybe.
Can you give me an example which reach like global audience? Some
Look,
inspirational.
the example that you gave me, Gandhi, for example. He had no social media platform or managers, and he could still spread some messages. I don't agree that his message was good, the good message, because he was like, let's be non-violent. But being non-violent is just a result of the environment. You cannot superimpose that on people. So if you have like a Gandhi in such a way in today's world that can influence people and talk about like trade is the source of most problems and we have to get rid of it and maybe we should create an abundant world, something may happen. I don't know, but that's the only way that I see it.
Yeah. And again, if you look at the Gandhi, at first it seems he achieved a lot, but actually instead of throwing away English, I would say not English society, but occupation of England. Yeah, the English persons they keep their businesses there and they basically control us there. So they still control India from like under the curtains. So kind of from a broad perspective, it seems they changed. They become free, from occupation, but in reality not. And yeah, and it's really sad to see and admit that. Sorry.
Yeah. But I mean, that was because the message that he was getting across was not to get a trade, It's like
no, but his main idea was to make India free from the British Empire. That was his main goal. All his life he put toward it, and by the end of the life he achieved that, and then he was disappointed.
Yeah, because I still agree that of course, I agree that his message was not even practical in my view. From what I know, it was mostly like we have cancer, let's operate on the patient and take the cancer away, but the cancer comes back. Of course, he achieved that through this kind of surgery to eliminate those people, but because he didn't address in any way the root cause here, the environment that produces such behaviors, that those British want to occupy India because of the same reasons, trade, because they had all kinds of motives there to do that. Because you don't address that, of course you are going to lose even if you win. So I don't think I keep that in mind.
Yeah, then he's not a good example.
No, he's an example of he wanted to do something and he achieved to spread the message. That was the idea, right? He achieved to spread the message and for people to listen to him. That's the idea.
Completely. And I can see how it can definitely snowball further. Like, I know how people have influenced me, like, for example, Jacques Fresco to a significant extent, and has now made me participate here. And the same with you guys. I'm sure many people have inspired you. And I definitely believe that it is possible to change millions of people, if not billions of people. It's, of course, maybe unrealistic in some regards, but even super rich people would also be open to such ideas if it's presented in the right manner and in the right format. I saw that Roxanne Meadows as well, she went to Dubai, I think, for a presentation there or conference. She was invited by the sheikh there to talk about future economies and be like presenting as well a resource-based economy and stuff like that. So I think it is possible. Of course, you might have to do it in a much more entertaining way, maybe, or submit to partially maybe to the rules of the game in terms of making things more clickbaity, but there are definitely ways of reaching people, and I think this concept of trade free is really tackling the core and making it much more easily digestible and understanding all these concepts.
Yeah.
But what do you think people will take you a lot of seriously when you start to play by the same rules? If you start to propose like a serious topic in an entertaining way, of course there could be a balance, but I think it's not so easy to achieve.
for me, one example that Cody, you can say, because like.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say, I think the perfect format for what you're talking about there is like taking seriousness, but like somehow making it entertaining is satire. So like seeing, if you ever saw Stephen Colbert do his political pundit, what was it? I forget who he played, but just some over-the-top Republican, like just absolutely like kind of making an ass of himself, but it's presented in like he's presenting both sides. He's masters of both the Democratic side and the Republican side, because he has to know how it's going to be funny for the audience that he's presenting his spun idea to. And it's a very powerful way, because you're making a person, I think the vulnerability comes from making the person laugh, but it's kind of like for somebody who it may be a new piece of information, it's almost like there's like a revelation happening inside of them. It's like, oh, when you put it that way, when it's funny to me, and it's like, oh, that is kind of ridiculous. Like it almost like if the idea was here and it was like you can't challenge it, it's like satire like brings it into the battlefield and can just obliterate just the amount of ideas that person changed in me alone, and just the way you can frame a topic is extremely powerful. And then adding like, you know, there's laughter behind it, so it's a friendly social, like it's almost everything you could want. And that's kind of something I'm trying to figure out, you know, where's my place in all this kind of thing, because it's like I want to be funny, I want to move these ideas around because it's good for everyone, and I care about, you know, my brothers and sisters across the world, and you know, everything that I need to survive. I'm just this one little piece kind of thing. So how can I put these you know, this powerful idea together, my ability to make people laugh, and satire is kind of falling out of this adopting it does how yeah.
I think you're cutting yourself, all of you, for me, and maybe it happens the same in the live stream. So 1 second.
Like satire would.
I think the problem. I think we should split the stream into 2 parts, because yeah.
Well, that's just
Everything like I'm saying, but it goes some sort of
Jeez. Come on.
then I think already people who support this idea now, you know, this crap. I don't know how system
get hold in.
there will be.
That, you know, he's at the point he does a lot of comedy, and George Carlin, I don't remember, you know, he just listens to more and more comedy, and he